Hi, good morning everyone. Thank you for joining me for the Wanderlust and Wellness nutrition class. I'm Rachelle, and although today's a little bit dreary, I did think we'd make a yummy air fryer recipe today. We are going to get into making air fryer tuna cakes. I know previously in the summertime we did make yummy salmon cakes, crab cakes, but today I thought we'd make tuna. A lot of us are now eating meatless meals during the week, and this is a great idea to incorporate that in our meal prep or even for the next couple of weeks. So with the tuna, as we all know, tuna is absolutely loaded with protein. There's 42 grams per 1 can of tuna, and it's loaded with amino acids as well. If you're not really into tuna and you don't like it, of course you can substitute it. A great additional source of protein would be using chickpeas, cauliflower, or soybeans. And there's a slew of other types of beans that are wonderful sources of protein as well that we'll get into later on. But for this particular recipe, all the ingredients, everything cost me less than $17 at my local grocery store. I basically purchased 12 ounces of tuna. I prefer the chunk one. It was in water and I did drain it prior. We're going to use a half a cup of breadcrumbs, which you can go ahead and use homemade ones if you prefer, which we've done that previously in class. I chopped up and diced 1 white onion, half of that will be needed. 2 eggs I've already beaten prior. My seasonings, I did not want to just use salt and pepper. I chose pepper and I had a citrus blend, which I do use for making different types of fishes. I like to add that on top. We're also going to be using about 4 tablespoons of mayo here, and finally lemon juice. So once you have all your ingredients, you will use your air fryer. Again, if you don't have an air fryer, you can certainly do this on top of your stove if you wish to. We preheat the air fryer to 375. You don't have to always preheat it, but I do, and I have sprayed my basket with some cooking spray just so it can not be sticking. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into incorporating all of these ingredients together. Again, you'll use your tuna. Then I'm going to go ahead and put in my mayo. Very easy. And you should probably have all this right here in your home, so it's not going to be something you may have to go out to the store and just grab. Then I'm going to go ahead and add my onion, and there's no order to adding all the ingredients in. My breadcrumbs. I love making quick, easy meals, as you all know, that are loaded with protein, because eating protein will make you feel fuller. It reduces the risk of having you snack. It's good for bone health, not to mention muscle. A lot of positives to eating more protein in your daily diet. And finally, my dry rub. So as you can see, it's all here. So I'm going to use my gloves to blend this in. I feel I can get a better idea of how it's blended. So I'm just going to put my gloves on. This particular recipe, you can get about 12 out of it, depending on how big you're going to make your tuna cakes. Yesterday I made this recipe and I made about 8 patties, which were great for us. So I'm just going to go ahead, mix everything in, and then once I have it all blended nice, I'm going to get into making our patties. So if you wanted to make your patty using an ice cream scoop or I'm going to use a regular tablespoon to do mine, because I don't want them to be too small, like a 2-bite, but I want at least a 4-bite patty. So as you're blending it, if you're finding your mixture is a little bit too squishy feeling, you just need to add a little bit more breadcrumb, and that should help bind it better. So this is going ahead looking pretty good. I like the consistency, as you can see. It's a good amount of tuna. And I like to have a little bit of texture just in my foods I'm making, especially something like this, like you're making a cake. Like so, I like to have a little bit of texture when I'm biting it and eating it. I don't like it to be too squishy. Alright, so everything here is blended. So now I'm going to start using, making the actual tuna cakes. So I'm just using one heaping spoon Again, if you want it a little bit bigger, you may want to pinch a little bit more and just add it. And you don't want them too big, because when you're in your air fryer and you're using the air fryer basket, you don't want to crowd them, you don't want to overlap. You just want to keep them separated enough so they can cook thoroughly. So I'm going to go ahead and make my patties here. And I think that's a pretty good size, because while we cook this, you do have to flip them halfway through cooking. It's about a 12-minute amount of time cooking, 6 minutes on each side. So I'm trying to keep them proportioned the same. So I'm just going to take a little from that first one we did. So as I do all this, I'm probably going to yield close to the 12 as this particular recipe said. Again, you can customize it to whatever your family likes or you like, and the size that you want the patty, the cake to be. So I think that's looking good. You may want to think about, you just don't want to eat this alone. You may want to have another side that might work well that's protein based and full. Brussels sprouts, you can glaze those up, roast them. That would be a nice side. And even if you wanted to saute green beans and mushrooms to have with it, again, a wonderful food loaded with some protein in it. So there we go. I have my 6 made, and I'm just going to hold off on making the rest, but I'm going to go right over to our air fryer that's already at 375, ready to go. So I do want to show you how wonderful and beautifully brown they come out. So we'll go ahead. And again, I sprayed this lightly with a little bit of cooking spray. And I'm just going to put my lovely little tuna cakes in here. I'm going to keep them a little bit separated so they don't crowd. So I'm placing them in all 4 corners. And once we're done with this last one, we're going to go ahead and lower it. And I am going to reduce my time, as you can see, to just 12 minutes. Oops. And we're going to start. So that's going to go ahead and just cook for about 6 minutes. I'll flip them, and I'm going to continue on making the rest of my tuna cakes here, and just go into a little bit more protein and what we could substitute and eat. So more things that have protein in it. We're looking at a lot of beans, lentils, soybeans, black beans are good source of protein. That would also be a wonderful side, or maybe you want to put that right into your tuna cake. It just depends upon how exactly you want to make them. You can, again, like I said, swap out a lot of the things in this recipe. I know not everybody's a huge fan of tuna. I always wasn't. It kind of occurred as I got older. My mom would make tuna casserole a lot during Lent. And I can remember my brother and I were just not into that, and it was rough, but we ate it. But I know there's a lot of variations of tuna you could use to make something that is good to have during Lent, or pretty much any time of the year if you wish to. Once you make your tuna cakes, you can leave them in the freezer for up to 3 months. You just want to use, when you decide to defrost them, pretty much you can reheat them just for less amount of time, and then that way they'll be perfectly ready to have at a later date. Or if you want to meal prep for the next 3 days, you can certainly do that with a meal preparation. Would be a great idea to have over some greens.
We have a question. Does it matter if the tuna is in water or oil?
No. If you want to have less calories, you're going to want to use the water tuna that's in water opposed to oil. If you do like the oil one instead, it will be a little bit higher calories in this particular recipe. But I like both of them. I prefer to eat tuna in oil. I usually don't mix any other mayo or any ingredients with that when I have tuna, so it definitely depends on what you prefer. Thanks for the question. All right, so we are almost at our 6-minute mark with these patties here. I want to just get a good look at them. All right, so as you can see, they're cooking. They're not going to be super brown on this side because we're going to flip them over. So I'm just going to close this down for a few more minutes, and then we'll flip them, and then they'll be ready to serve shortly. So we like to make this, we do enjoy our fish product with this, but if you don't have fish, again, incorporate the vegetables into it. Use your cauliflower, your chickpeas are a nice thing to have. I think it would be wonderful to definitely experiment with this recipe, try that out, see what works best for you and your family. I would love to try it with the chickpeas. I don't know if we would do it, but it sounds good. Chickpeas, just smush them up and then use that instead of your tuna. I would definitely give that a try instead. Almost there. Counting down. Like I said, we had this yesterday. We simply did it over some spinach. I did top it with aioli. It was store-bought. I wasn't into making an aioli sauce yesterday, but it came out delicious. It added a little bit of kick. When we ate it, we really enjoyed the lemon. You could taste everything that you put into this particular tuna cake. You could definitely taste it once we made it and ate it. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and flip these. And they're getting nice and brown. Just be very, very careful because the basket is hot. And they're getting a nice brown color. They smell good already. I'm just going to lower this down for a few more minutes and then we can present it. Is there any other questions, Brian?
That was the only
That was
question.
my question. All right. So again, let's think. Other sources of protein. Hopefully everybody is getting enough protein into their diet every day. We said lentils, there's soybeans, lima beans, black beans. What else do we have? Tofu. I haven't really tried much tofu, but I am aware that it's a high protein type of food you can certainly eat. We like to just keep it basic in the house and not have a lot of foods that are not going to benefit us and keeping us hungry, because that's the big thing, is keeping our protein in and eating food that's going to make us feel fuller longer. All right, so let's see. So these are all ready for the next batch to go in. I'm going to put them over here. And we're almost ready to serve this. As you can see, I decided to use one of our boards that we bought locally, and I'm just going to spread out my spinach here. Any of the greenery is perfectly fine to use with this, but we're going to then top this with our yummy tuna cakes. Spritz them with a little olive oil and then top it with aioli sauce. This is the store-bought one I grabbed yesterday. There's so many you can choose from, but that's what was available, and that's a nice little addition to your food. Alright. So here we are. Just want to show you. It's nice and brown. If you want to go a little bit longer, you certainly can. The cakes I made yesterday looked like a little bit like a hamburger patty. They were very big. These are a little bit more smaller than the ones I prepared yesterday, but I'm just going to go about 30 more seconds and then we'll plate them and they'll be ready to eat. So again, depending on the size of the cake you're going to make, that'll determine how long your cooking time is going to be. The smaller, you may not have to cook it as long. But it's something that you can whip up when you get home. You don't have to put much effort into this. It was a 5-minute prep with that. And 12 minutes to cook. Alrighty, so I'm going to take these out. They're ready to go. And I'm just going to place them on top of my spinach here. And as you can see, they're absolutely cute and perfect. And you can, again, side this with some other vegetables, whatever you prefer. And I am just going to do a little spritz here. Oops. All right. Just a tiny bit of olive oil. Oh, it's not working very well. Well, here we go. You just want to spray a little bit of olive oil on top before you serve them. And again, some aioli if you're into that. A little bit of a drizzle on that. And there you go. These are our air fryer tuna cakes. Absolutely delicious. Substitutions are always available, and I do hope you'll try this out. It's a great meal for you and your family. So enjoy your day, get out and do something, and have a wonderful weekend again. Thank you for joining me. Take care. Bye.